Welcome back to my channel, Break from Fear. I am so apologetic, but I took a break. It was a pretty long break, but I'm back and I'm determined to help you all to understand why we live in survival mode. And what I've been emphasizing lately is something called the minefield. I will tell you how this happens and what some of the symptoms are. So just as a reminder, this information I'm giving you came from a download. Years and years ago, I was a silver mine control student. I have attended Joe Dispenza's seminars. And in developing my own way of going to the brain wave, I would go to sleep with a particular message playing in the background as I fell asleep. And I did this for approximately 1 to 2 years. And one day, out of the blue, without warning, I had what I call a brain download. Now, the gist of the message is that as children, we are not protecting our child or our children from going into what I call survival mode. Survival mode is there. It's the fight-flight system, and its number one job is to survive for all species, humans as well as the animals. And the reason for that, if you are dead, you can't have goals or live your life or do anything. So needless to say, your number one goal is to survive. Then you can do other things. So if children are not protected from their fears, just keep in mind children are not little adults. Their ability to reason and to be rational gets developed later. Prior to that is when, if they're exposed to frightening trauma, which I'm going to talk in detail a little more about, often enough, that system, that protective system goes on and it stays on. And one of the things it creates is we stay in what I coin survival mode. And from survival mode, it creates a psychological minefield. Now, the minefield is turned on by different triggers. Every story is different. My PTSD is what happened to children. It's caused by something different from yours, or it could be similar. But what I'd like to talk about is the minefield. Just stay with that, and I will go over every symptom as time passes. But the minefield, you need to first understand a physical minefield. And that's where if you're a soldier or you are in a high pressure situation, you would best understand. Think of it in the physical sense that there are mines in this vast field and you don't know where the mines are. So when you walk in that field, if you step on one, you die. It blows up right under you. Now, the psychological is not very different. It's still a vast field that's created by your mind. And the way it goes on in lieu of the minds in the physical field, in your head, there are triggers. So all around you, depending on your childhood trauma, these triggers get repeated. And when they're repeated, the minefield works. It is frightening. It creates a high vibration of energy. Unfortunately, the energy is negative energy. So, of course, you'd like some examples. And it doesn't have to be severe as sexual abuse for children. That probably creates one of the highest if we put it on a scale. For the minefield from 0 to 10, that will trigger a psychological response where you feel like you're crazy. That would probably be an 11. The other The other behavior or symptom that has a high trigger in the minefield would be alcoholism. And you can understand the reason for that is I want you to always, when you're listening, to go back to the children. Go back to under 8, stay under 8 years old, where a child is powerless. So if I'm an alcoholic and I have children, the thing about alcoholism is I would drink to feel good, to feel like I could stay in my skin. Unfortunately, when I'm drinking, I'm happy and I'm in my skin. But the question to you would be, what happens when I'm not drinking and I'm not in my skin? And that's what creates the minefield, and that's what creates a trigger for the child. Now, we can look at other minefields that are pretty mild. You may call it mild, but everything that disturbs the mind, because some of us, this happens to all of us, and there are people who will say, I'm highly successful, the world is at my feet. But the question to ask yourself is, when you're in the dark of the night or the cloudiness of the day or wherever your environment is there a sense of discontent? Are you successful? Everything is going your way, but there's this quiet moment and it's just between you and yourself. Your colleagues, your family don't know that. That's why people, in a way, we wear a mask. So we put on a face for work, and one for our children, one for our spouses, and one for wherever it's not. But then there we take off the mask. That's for us to look in the mirror and see. And the way to know, you may not have had sexual child abuse, or you may not have had a parent who was an alcoholic, but you had something that anytime the fight-flight system in the amygdala keeps triggering, it can stay on, and it does stay on, and this is a human condition. You still have triggers. You still experience a minefield. You still experience stress as a child, and just for lack of a better word, we all have PTSD, because that's what the stress is. And so the thing that happens is you grow up, we all grow up, and we all have different experiences, but guess what? The minefield is psychological, because in your head, you still create it. You're still living it. That there's a piece of you that didn't grow up. So this is where psychotherapy or any kind of assistance or program that could go back and treat your own personal situation that happened and get you out of the psychological minefield. Otherwise, the world with God is to cooperate, not to compete. With the devil, it's compete. With God, it's to cooperate so that there's love and content, and we can sleep and rest and we have peace. But if you're in a minefield, there's none of that. There's total discontent. And the mention of God, I know some of you break out into hives when I say that, but you have to ask yourself, why is God such a bad name for you? Why does it trigger you in a negative way? And the simple answer, and I can do a video on that, is that the first people who cared for you, be it your parents, guardian, relative, that's your God. That represent God. And if that wasn't loving, protective, kind, find any other words you need to feel loved, then you can go to feel, appreciate, and trust a God in the clouds that you've never seen. God first starts with the human that took care of you as a child. So I'm going to summarize the minefield for today, but as promised, each week I will give you a different flavor or a different aspect of the minefield. So for now, let's just say in childhood. If you are not protected from your fears, children are not little adults. What you see as a movie, a child sees a scary movie, for example, a child sees as reality. And if they are exposed to moments of fear from the environment, the parenting, whatever comes their way, that can trigger the fight-flight system. And it stays on creating what I coined survival mode. We're in survival mode, meaning where every second of the day we think we need to survive. We think there's a gun to our head. And then the survival mode creates the minefield, and we live the minefield because it's an environment that we live in day out, unfortunately. It is psychological. I am going to stop there. Please feel free to like if you'd like more videos like this. And if you have questions on the subject, I will be very happy to answer. For now, so long until the next time. Bye-bye.